welcome everyone. This channel is about teaching Arabic to foreigners. If you are new, please make sure you like, subscribe, and keep watching. In the last lesson, we learned two letters that look alike, Sad and Dad. Have you been practicing? In this lesson, we learned two more letters that also look alike. These two letters sound like the two letters that's already learned, but they are stronger and heavier than the two versions we learned. Ready to go? Then let's go. In this lesson, we learned two more letters that also look alike. These two letters sound like letters we've already learned, but they are stronger and heavier versions of them. Ready to learn? Then let's go. The first letter we have in this lesson is Ta. This one sounds like the strong version of the letter Ta. It kind of sounds like both T in the name of Tom. When you pronounce it, try to contract your throat like you did with Ta. Let's practice it together so that you can see the difference. Repeat after me. Ta. Ta. Let's write the isolated form. Ta. Here are the other forms of Ta. Initial, medial, and final. Now let's write the other forms. Ta. The next letter we learn is Da. This one is like the strong version of the Dal. It looks just like the Ta, except that it has a dot on the top. Let's practice this one together as well. Repeat after me. Dal. Da. Now let's write it down. Da. Now let's see the other form of Da. Initial, medial, and final. Handwriting time. Da. Now let's learn some words using these letters we learned. Let's start with the word Tib. This means medicine. Ta is in the initial form with the kasra at the bottom. Then we have the ba in the final form. Let's learn how to write them. Tib. Our second word is had, which means luck. But you don't need to luck to form this word, it's easy. It's just a ha in the initial form with a fatha on top, connected to the in the final form. Let's write it down. Had. Now it's time for catharsis. Unlike the letters we've learned before, all the forms of tha and da is very similar. But remember, not all the Arabic letters are like this. It's important to memorize all of the forms of the letters and not just their isolated form. Practice by reading some Arabic text on the internet and magazines or even on the packaging of Arabic products. Now we will learn two more letters that look alike but have no counterpart in our English language. One of them is the first letter in the word Arabiya, which means Arabic. Please stay with me. Now we learn another set of similar letters of the second group. I know how frustrated it is to learn letters that are hard to pronounce, but don't worry. There are many letters in that group. Ready to learn? Then let's go. The next letter we have is Ain. It looks like a mirror image of the number 3, but it dips beneath the line in the isolated and final forms. Ain doesn't sound like any other letters in the Arabic or English alphabet. The sound comes from the very deep parts in the throat. Let's practice it together. Repeat after me. Ain. Let's write the isolated form. Ain. Now let's see the other forms of Ain. Take note how they all like a bit different. Initial, medial, and final. Let's see how we write them. Ain. The next letter we learn is Ghain. This one is like the French R. It looks just like the Ain, except that it has a dot on the top. It sounds similar to the sound we make when we gargle, a sound that comes from the point deep in the throat. Listen carefully. Ghain. Let's write it down in the isolated version. Ghain. Now for the rest of the forms, initial, medial, and final. Let's write them down. Ghain. Now let's learn some words using these two letters combined with some of the letters we learned before. Our first word is abra, meaning through. Ain is in the initial form with the fatha on top. Then we have the ba in the middle form without vowel, connected to the ra in the final form with the fatha on top. Let's write it. Abra. The next word is Ghadr, which means betrayal. Ghain is in the initial form with the fatha on top, connected to the final dal with no vowel, then ra in the isolated form. Let's write it down. غدر. Now it's time for counter steps. In this lesson, you learn the letter Sad, Dad, Ain, and Ghain. Ain is also the Arabic word for eye. For example, the expression Al-Ain bil-Ain was-Sin bis-Sin means eye for an eye, tooth for tooth. Great job and making this far. Next time, we'll be having another review lesson and we'll learn more vowel sounds. I'll see you in the next lesson. بالتوفيق.